And now I'd like to introduce our session today. As founders, we're often encouraged to focus on individual areas of business, fundraising, sales, marketing, product development, operations, and more. But startup success is not about optimizing individual functions. It can be, but it's more about understanding how they work together as a system to see to your success. Today, we're joined by Jane Korneyko, founder of SOVA and a former executive with over 20 years experience leading strategy and transformation across legal, health, and professional services, including senior roles at Minter Ellison and Monash Health. Through her work, Jane became increasingly interested and passionate about a core challenge, that systems often fail founders long before founders fail businesses. This led her to found SOVA, a platform designed to help founders identify risks, strengthen their businesses, and build more sustainably. In today's session, Jane will draw on a lot of research she's conducted from Startup Genome, Harvard Business Review, MIT, Y Combinator, and others to explore the 9 interconnected elements that underpin startup success. She'll be sharing why thinking in systems can help founders make better decisions, identify hidden challenges, and build more resilient, scalable businesses. So please join me in welcoming Jane Korneyko.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, is that working? Thank you. I'm obviously really thrilled to be here. It's also really nice not to squeeze your heart and soul into 3 to 5 minute pitches. So I'm really, really pleased that I've got, 45 minutes or so? Yeah, cool. Thank you for having me again. Today we're going to talk about why thinking as a system for your startup is actually more beneficial than thinking in silos.
Sorry, I might just add one thing.
Yeah.
Please, let's keep the questions to the end, so we'll go with the presentation, so we're across all the information. And then at the end with questions, just keep your questions somewhat broad or relevant to other founders in the room. Let's not make them too specific about your specific situation. There's networking after the session to do that. Right, thank you. Sorry, Jane.
Cool, that's all right. So the agenda for today, I'm going to tell you who the hell I am to be standing in front of you today, apart from Amir's kind introduction, why that matters, and why everything that I'm about to tell you matters. We'll go into the 9 elements eventually, and then we'll piece it all together at the end. I hate this slide. For anyone who knows me, and I know a few people in the room, I am like allergic to LinkedIn. So this is really painful for me, but I'm going to just put some stuff up on the screen just so you know I have some relevance in the field that I'm speaking about, basically. First of all, I'm a recovering executive. I say recovering because it's almost like an alcoholic. I've stepped off the treadmill. I'm recovering because I didn't fit the mold. I was good at my job, but the corporate sector, as Sunny knows, Sunny and I work together, it's pretty brutal, and I'm just not that sort of person, as it turns out. I'm also a huge business theory nerd, so I don't know all the theories, but I know a lot of them, and I like to apply them. I think they're really relevant, they're evidence-based, they're best practice, they work. I'm also a complexity distiller. So I take things that are really complex, and it's almost like a puzzle to me. I like to make sense of it. I like to piece it all together and make sense of what it is and simplify it, distill it and simplify it essentially. And lastly, I'm a systems thinker. So I've recently taken Russell's in the room. It's my 3rd sort of major personality test in the way that your brain thinks, and 3 out of 3, I'm a complete systems thinker, which is part of the reason why I struggle in the world sometimes as well, because I see things in patterns. But I'm also one of you guys. So I am a startup, an early stage startup. I've never run a startup before. I quit my corporate job in order to help startups. So I suppose I'm trying to say is, I'm the same as you guys. Most of us are early stages, maybe building first time, but also maybe a lot of you don't have business management theory or business management knowledge that you probably need in order to build a successful business. So hopefully what you hear today is a little bit about what might be able to help you. The patterns. So as I said, I see the world in patterns. I like to research. I like the data and evidence behind it. This is, I've spun it around because it's not an Australian graph. It's a US-based graph because there just doesn't exist one in Australia. One doesn't exist in Australia. And not that I want to liken us to America in any way, but the sample size and obviously Western culture tells us that we're very similar. And this graph shows that startup failure rates have not changed in a really long time. I've just read a brilliant essay and I thought I'd just bring up a quote about these new methodologies that we hear all the time about, and I'll show you a few of them. But essentially what the quote says is, if those methodologies that come out all the time were working, we would see a difference in the failure rates, right? But that's not the case. 4 steps to epiphany. Has anyone heard of that one before? No, yeah, we're old enough to know. It's 4 steps to basically speak to your client, know your market, build it, and then build out your brand or build out your product. That came out in 2005, hasn't shifted the dial. Design thinking was another big one in roughly about 2008, but it was up and down through all of those years. Again, didn't shift the rates. Business model canvas by itself, again, a really brilliant tool, but again, didn't do anything for the system, for the ecosystem. And then the big shebang, the lean startup methodology was out and everywhere, and everyone was using it, right? Brilliant in its own right, but again, has made no difference to the rates of failure. Some engagement. So how many do you think of Aussie startups fail within 3 years?
80%?
Good guess, yep. 99%. Wow, those are shitty odds. Yeah, not quite as drastic. Anyone else? 92, yep. Marie? There's no prize. We're all poor, Lena. We don't have prizes. Marie?
67.
Yes, close. 60%. Which is not too bad, but within 3 years, right? 5 years is closer to the startups, how many startups fail globally? I think this is a cliche that everyone knows, has heard of before. Sorry?
90%?
Absolutely. Yep, 90% of us will fail eventually, which are not amazing odds. And my point is that the stats haven't changed. Hey?
This is really cheering me up.
I know. But there's a point to talking about it, right? There is a point to talking about it, and I'll get to it. I know this is all doom and gloom. I'm setting the scene. Yeah. Thanks, Sam. Right, how many of us fail because of premature scaling? Anyone want to guess? Premature scaling means you basically got too big too fast without the fundamentals and the processes and systems underneath it.
75%?
Yeah, close, yeah. 80? 80, yeah, anyone else? Roughly, yeah. 74. What about running out of mullah? It's a big one. Less? 90%, yeah. Yeah, we are poor, yeah. The cost of living hasn't helped, yes. Maybe the stats will shift. Actually, the Startup Genome report just came out, so I'm listening to it being presented tomorrow, and I might have more up-to-date stats. 70% of us run out of money. What about missed product market fit? This is, I'll give you a clue, this is lower. 50, close, yep. 30, yep, somewhere in between. 43%. And lastly, co-founder conflict. Yes? Yeah, yeah. So how many of us have been to sessions where they say you have to pretend that you're marrying your co-founder? Yeah? Yeah. 65% fail due to co-founder conflict. Now, what is our ecosystem actually doing about it? From my perspective, the startup news headlines in Australia are a bit out of whack. What are some of the headlines that you guys have heard of? When you first start a startup, what are you being told? Don't start, yeah?
The investment landscape's really minuscule.
Yep.
Somewhere like the States, for example.
Yep, fantastic.
You also hear about these big raises.
Yep, huge raises, yeah. Victoria was like leading billions of dollars investment, right? Until you read the footprint. Yep.
But it's all tech-driven.
Tech-driven, yeah, absolutely.
Market research-driven now.
Yeah. Yep. One of the big ones that I dislike is that you have to get into an accelerator. Yeah, have you heard of that one? Or you need to get investment, even though half of us probably are not suited to investment. So above the iceberg, because there's bits and pieces above and below, accelerators are a big one. So the majority of the headlines is you need to get into an accelerator. They take 5 to 12% equity most of the time, not all of them, before you even make a single dollar. They usually have less than 10% acceptance rate, so 10 of the maybe people that were here or less will actually be able to get into an accelerator or a program. And they usually are 6 to 12 week programs that are being run consecutively. We are all obviously very flexible people, but the majority of the average age of a founder is actually 40, it just shifted from 47 to 46. A lot of those people have kids. They have full-time jobs potentially, or a really short timeline. They might be working part-time. They can't afford to sit in a 6 or 12 week program. Some of us, most of us. The other place that startups turn to is obviously AI. I use it, everybody uses, I think. Oh, sorry, I pressed the thing. Everybody uses, right? But you need to understand how to use it to your advantage. It is very generic. Most of it is US context-based, and it's very agreeable. You can change that, but it does tend to give you a lot of the bias. And if you're saying, this is my idea, give me a strategy for it, it's likely to give you the same strategy that somebody else is actually doing or has the same idea or a similar idea. Consultants is another one, so you need to find a mentor or you need to find a consultant. That's fantastic. They're obviously experts in their own field, but they do charge a lot of money. I can't afford a consultant, I am bootstrapped. They also predominantly work in silos, so you'll go and see a consultant and they might know marketing and strategy, but they won't know anything about financials or governance or process or technology, which I'm about to show you. So you're always having to sort of speak to different people to get different advice, and that advice is not holistic. It doesn't talk about your startup as a system. And DIY. Did anyone go to flip the pitch? StartSpace, yeah. Did you hear someone say, I really love the quote, it's like drinking from a fire hose? Yeah? That's exactly what I feel like about DIY, because there's so much information, it's so overwhelming. There are millions of different products, programs, networking events, like all of that sort of stuff is fantastic, right? It's readily available, but it's snippets of information that you all need to piece together, and I do too. What about underneath the the iceberg? So Australia is 105th out of 145 countries for economic complexity, which means we are doing really poorly in that regard. I didn't put it on the screen, but in terms of innovation, we just keep dropping globally. We are dropping in innovation, which means, what that means is really Our export is not innovative. It's just what we get out of the ground, predominantly in Australia. We need to shift those rates somehow. Australia, someone needs to do something about this. The same accelerators that I was talking about, if you dig a little bit deeper, none of them have a standard curriculum. So it is all based on, obviously they are, again, experts and mentors, but it's driven on the people that they have in the room and what they are trying to achieve, whether it's speed, which is another thing that we hear in the headlines, is you need to be as quick as humanly possible and get it out in the market, right? Which doesn't necessarily mean that you go through the processes of actually developing your brand, your product, your offering. So they don't have a standard curriculum for themselves, but also across the board. They don't teach the same things across the board. They might teach the business canvas, for example, or how to do a strategy, but there's nothing that's holistic and standard practice across all of them. And they typically don't have a diagnostic to actually get you in the room. So everybody's treated the same way. So some of the feedback that I've received is that it's very cookie cutter. And the reason why it's cookie cutter is because they don't care where you're up to. They're giving you a curriculum that works for everyone, right? Which is fine, but you might be going over the same things that you've already done. And there's no progress tracking. So yeah, there is did you make fund? Did you invest? Did you get investment? Did you meet a co-founder? And how was your perception of the whole thing? But essentially there's no value sort of progress tracking of each startup that they put through the cohort. Sorry. A little bit about global early stage deals. So for the likes of me, an early stage founder, we are down 70% from 2021. So nobody is investing in early stage startups. The majority of those headlines that you mentioned are, Victoria got the most amount of investment, billions and billions of dollars. But if you read the footprint, that half of that money went to 2 startups across 3 rounds. Wow. Yep. So early stage deals are down. Startup Genome, who is the body, the government, not government body, but they advise to governments across the world. They actually called it the funding winter. My perspective, and I think a few people are starting to talk about it as well, is that people are losing their jobs to AI, right? In the first, I think it was 6 weeks of this year, I think 460,000 people lost their jobs, or 46, I can't remember. And the predominant answer was AI, right? And that's going to happen more and more because AI is taking jobs. And those people are going to have a very hard time finding new jobs. What are they going to do? They're likely to start their own thing. Whether it's a consultancy, whether it's an idea that they've had, whatever it is, those guys are all startups. Even consultants are startups in their own right because they need to have a strategy, they need to have a differentiator, they need to have a pricing model, they need to market themselves. All of those things are still as important as a typical startup where you have potentially a unicorn idea or whatnot. In Victoria alone, I won't list all of these, but there are, as I said, multiple avenues that you can go to for help, but they are fragmented, overwhelming, and you run from one thing to the other. I've been going to lots of networking events, lots of talks like mine, where you hear bits and pieces of information, but you're still needing to piece it all together. Sorry. I believe that better businesses build better worlds, and I think that every founder should have the capacity to do that themselves. Sorry. Oh gosh. Sorry, just coming off a bit of a cold. I feel like the ecosystem is already struggling. Never mind the AI wave that we're going to get of new entrants. My point here is it is all doom and gloom, but the point is that we have to try and help ourselves. because the ecosystem, as great as it is not going to, the walls are closing in on us. Oh dear, it's been cut off. Sorry about that. This is what Canva does. It's not amazing. Sorry, it meant to say 9 elements. Oh, thank you. What do I do with it?
You can just it's not the Japanese one.
Oh gosh. Sorry, everyone. Right. This isn't working the way it should, but oh, that's cut off too. There is no science to building a startup. We are all completely different. We're all building different things in different ways. I understand that. But what I want to say is that we do have decades of research into why startups fail and why they succeed. And that's essentially what I've done in order to present to you today and the way that I've built my business. So I have looked into 2.5 years, for 2.5 years before I started SOVA, I looked into all of the failure research and reasons, all the success rates and why startups succeed. And then I've pieced it together with all the best practice, expert advice, all grounded in evidence, right? There's best practice and evidence out there, and that's the bits that I've taken, not experience or opinion, but actual evidence-based best practice. These are the 9 elements that were meant to come up a bit later, but we're going to run through each one, by themselves. So, but yeah, still good time. Right, working, yes, okay. This is not great either. Sorry about the slides, everyone. So, governance. What I'm going to do is run you through why it matters, what to do about it, and what it actually is. So, why governance matters. One of the things is 24% of co-founder relationships dissolve within 4 years from misaligned expectations. And the benefit of having governance or looking at governance in your business is early planning, legal consultation, and compliance systems ensure smoother adherence and safeguarding startups from setbacks. How you can do that, was everyone at the breakfast, the last breakfast with Rahul? Yep. So he talked about a shareholders agreement, right? That's one of the tools that you can use to prevent co-founder conflict. It's not obviously we're all people, we're going to have disagreements. Shareholders agreement is a good one. Obviously it sets the scene, sets the terms for your relationship. But there are other tools that are also very helpful in helping you manage that relationship. So I won't go through them all, but the RACI and the RAPID are great tools to use to understand who's who in the zoo, who decides, who provides information, and all the bits and pieces that you need to consider. The OODA loop is a great tool to be able to actually work through the decision that you need to make in a very comprehensive way, so that nothing is missed. And if you are trying to make a decision that you both disagree on, it's a great tool to use. PESTLE is another framework to be able to assess your whole environment for your startup, so that you're being comprehensive about your particular market, not just thinking about it in little snippets. So what is governance? Governance is your legal structure, it's also your agreements, it's your compliance, it's your policies, your risks and decision making. Who said governance is for later in your startups? I have, yeah. I've been like, I'll do that later, yeah. I'll build the product first, then I'll do governance. Everything points to the fact that governance should be your first point of call, because you do need to understand your market, your legal implications, your economic sort of landscape, the market that you're going into, who's making decisions, who you're going to be working with, etc. Purpose. I'll show you how those two link as well. Purpose. So why do you need purpose? if what you build doesn't solve a problem faster, better, or cheaper than the status quo, it will fail. And the benefit of that is 63% of consumers want to buy from companies whose purpose resonates with their values. How you do that? I am actually using the golden circle. Who's heard of the golden circle? Yeah, it's a brilliant way of communicating. You can apply it to many different things, but it's essentially you talk about the why, then the how, and then the what, rather than the other way around, which most of us do. It's a brilliant way to communicate. It's a really simple tool, but it might help you actually understand or get your purpose across. Value proposition canvas is a well-known, I suppose it can be considered as a marketing tool, but it's actually really helpful in understanding who you serve and the market that you want to serve it in. Human-centered design is another one about co-design, like understanding, empathizing with your client base and making sure that you're building a purposeful business. And mission, vision, and values. The boring stuff, very boring mission, vision, and values, the stuff that nobody wants to do. But actually, if you don't have this, then on what basis are you making decisions in your governance step? Does that make sense? Yeah. So what is purpose? The purpose is your reason for being. It's the problem you solve, who you solve it for, and the values you will not trade. So if there are two of you or more of you and something comes up and you all agree on, go back to your values, go back to the mission, the vision, the boring stuff that actually drove you to your business in the first place. Strategy. This is a big one. Everybody knows it, I guess. 43% of startups fail because they build a product that nobody needs. The benefit of having a strategy or doing a better strategy is that product market fit, if you show it within 6 to 12 months, your survival rate goes up to about 80%, which is brilliant. How do you do that? We've all heard about the Lean Business Canvas. It's a great tool to be able to do it properly. You need to think through all of the steps to be able to create your strategy really comprehensively and in the best way possible. Riskiest assumption test is testing your assumptions before you actually launch. TAM, SAM, SOM, everyone who's done a pitch knows all about it, but it's really important. And beachhead, again, everyone's like, oh, but beachhead market is your marketing stuff. But it fits in strategy because if you don't have a good strategy for marketing, then you don't know what marketing to do, right? Marketing is all about the doing and showing your brand. But the strategy piece should include everything to do with your governance, your purpose, and your strategy now, and your marketing. So what is strategy? It's your plan to win, who you serve and what makes you different, and the things that you say no to. So we can't, the headline again is that you can't do everything all at once. You have to go small and then go large, right? So you need to bed down what it is that you're actually working on. Performance. Not a lot of people do this. Founders boast about 100,000 users when only 3% are actually active, and they show revenue charts that hide the terrible churn. The benefit of having performance is that startups that pivot once or twice grow 3.6 times faster and raise more funding. What is performance? It's your North Star metric. So what is it that you actually want to achieve? For Airbnb, for example, it's the nights booked. For Spotify, their North metric is hours listened. What is your actual North Star metric, and are you measuring it against your strategy? KPIs and OKRs, they're very different, but they're useful in the same way. It's measuring whether or not you're actually achieving your strategy. A16Z is a venture capitalist, and they've released 16 startup metrics that are actually really amazing. There's a tool that they have that as a tool. Pirate metrics, the RRR, That's why it's called Pirate. Another brilliant tool that you may not know about, but what I'm trying to say to you is there are amazing tools. These are just some of them that will help you with your performance element. So performance is essentially the smart metrics that show whether you're truly progressing, not just busy, because we all get busy, but are you actually getting somewhere, and are you meeting your strategy and purpose? And if not, why? And when you need to pivot. So you need to be understanding whether or not you should be, what you're doing is working, and then pivot if it's not. A new market, a new traction channel, whatever it might be. Finance. Over 4/5 of businesses that closed did so because of cash flow difficulties. The surest way to avoid financial failure is to develop a business model with a predictable path to revenue and profitability. So finance, again, links back to strategy, and it links back to your purpose, and it links back to governance, right? So I'm trying to show you that it's all linked together. I think most of us know about cash flow forecasts, the runway calculator, the break-even analysis, and the unit economics. Again, these are all the things that if you are pitching to investors, they're going to ask you. And it's worthwhile for you guys to know, not just from a pitch perspective. So, yeah, finance is your runway, burn, pricing, unit economics, the cash draw, and far more than that. Finally, we get to marketing. So this is the doing of the marketing. Inconsistent startups are 2.3 times more likely to badly overspend on customer acquisition. So this is about consistency. You have to know what your strategy is in order to market properly. A strong brand earns word of mouth, referrals, a cult following, and direct traffic. Some of the amazing tools that exist is the 19 traction channels and the bullseye framework that actually helps you hone what your traction channels should be at the very beginning. And then if that doesn't work, it's how you pivot across all of them. Customer persona, again, stuff that nobody really wants to do because it takes time, but really helps you understand who your market is, who your target customer is, and how to target them better. Has anyone ever heard of spin? Yeah. Yeah, spin selling. Yeah, what a great tool. I won't tell you about it. You can have a look at it yourself. But yes, marketing is how your customers find you, grasp your value, and remember your brand. People. This is controversial because most people I speak to are like, oh, I'm a solo founder, I don't have people. And I very tactfully say, but you're a people. That's the best way that I can come up with it, because it gets missed, right? You are a person, and you do need the things I'm about to tell you. So regardless of whether you're solo or a team, you still need to consider.
Maybe one day AI will be the one that's doing the startup.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So 72, this is a huge number, 72% of founders report burnout. Yeah, and that's because we are all, some of the solo ones especially, we're all doing a million different things. We're working 7-day weeks, not having breaks and whatnot, and that does tend to affect mental health. So the benefit of considering people as an element is mapping your core skills. Even if you are a starter, like even if you're a team or a solo, it really doesn't matter. Mapping the core skills that you both or by yourself have, technical, design, marketing, and sales, and trying to fill those gaps. Understanding what your actual weaknesses are, what your strengths are for sure, but also where you might need help. How you do that. There's a brilliant tool called the skills gap analysis. It helps you understand what it is that you might be missing. There's some amazing short personality tests, basically, to say what you're good at and what you might need help with as an entrepreneur. Once you do get help, or if you onboard, if you get new staff members in, once you grow and become more successful, The importance of onboarding and offboarding is sometimes missed, especially the offboarding part, because that's knowledge walking out your door. And very important to me, and I think, a really key thing that gets missed is 360-degree feedback. So even if you have a mentor or a consultant or whoever it is, make sure that you're doing 360-degree feedback just for relationship building, if nothing else, but also to find out, because your staff, or if you do end up getting staff, at the core level, they are the ones that are conversing with your clients. They are gold for feedback and knowing how to improve your businesses. So your people is whether you're a solo or a team, your capacity, the people around you, and clear roles and responsibilities. And again, you shouldn't be hiring without KPIs that people can then know what to what they are being judged on or performance managed on. And how they fit into the whole strategy of the company, what your values are and how they can uphold those. I've heard a number of people say, we hired really quickly, we got a major deal, we hired really quickly, didn't bother to do a value mapping, whether or not they have the same values as us. We gave them no performance indicators, they weren't performing, we didn't really get along, and we had to fire them. And then a work cover claim comes on because, you've just missed all the box ticking stuff that people don't really consider. We're nearly there, folks. Process is another one that, again, everyone's like, I'll do that later when I've got more staff, or, we need to have policies and procedures, but actually process starts at the very beginning. Insufficient workflows, poor delegation, disorganised processes quickly drain a startup's resources. Good processes is a checklist. It's the right thing, gets done by the right people at the right time. A customer journey map is a really brilliant way to understand, I suppose, your whole business and how you get from, entry of a client to offboarding of a client, or how you actually service the client base. And it actually sometimes helps you identify where the bottlenecks are, where you could automate stuff, where you could cut processes. It's a really great tool to use. Standard operating procedures, once you get to more of a level of trying to bed those down and actually communicate that to other people, whether it's contractors or maybe even consultants. Theory of constraints is what I absolutely live by. Theory of constraints is a theory that says every system has a bottleneck. And those bottlenecks are really easy to find once you start looking, and they are essentially a really amazing benefit to the whole system to fix. And you can do that by doing another great tool, which is called the 5 Whys. Has anyone heard of the 5 Whys before? Yeah, it's basically like drilling down, asking 5 whys as to why something happened. So, I don't know, if you're, give me an example of something bad happening. Customer walked away. Yeah, so why did they walk away?
Didn't meet their expectations, or weren't the right customer at that point.
Yeah, why were they not the right customer? Doesn't have to be one answer.
Pay, but it didn't become apparent to me from the beginning.
Yeah, and why did it not become apparent?
I was too excited.
Yeah, you see the reason? So it really boils down to the root cause of the problem, not just they walked away. That's the intent of it. And you can have multiple reasons for why something happened, but it's like until you can't ask why, that's your root cause analysis. And finally is technology. So the biggest mistake is over-investing in expensive tech before you actually validate the market. And the benefit of technology in business is that it enables companies to operate more efficiently, more effectively, and more competitively. So in order to get that, build, measure, and learn, understanding what sort of do the minimum thing that you can possibly do learn from it, and then upgrade your tech or understand what you need to do differently. Automation and integration. So automation, I think many people know. Integration sometimes gets lost. We continuously build up technology that doesn't really speak to each other, and it is understanding how we can integrate and simplify those so we don't get a tech debt. There's a register that you can use to sort of understand that. And then, God forbid, you should ever have a cybersecurity risk, but there's an amazing free tool called the Business Continuity in a Box that helps you understand what you need to do and the process that you need to follow for cybersecurity if you do ever get hacked. So technology, lastly, are the tools, the data, the infrastructure that lets you build and deliver and eventually scale. Also linked to your processes, links to your, so people, process and tech are usually spoken in the same vein because they are very heavily related to one another. But it also obviously links to your governance, how you protect your business, the risks around it, your strategy, where you want to go, what technology you need, and so on and so forth. Does that all make sense thus far? Yeah? Okay, to bring it all together, this is something that I just thought about to try and help you guys think about your startup. And I came up with an idea of using, pretend your startup is a hospital. Because a hospital, I come from a medical background or from a hospital background, and they have to be the most super organised organisms in order to succeed the way that they do, right? There are a million different processes in a hospital and they all have to work together, otherwise people die. So I'm going to give you some bits and pieces and you'll have to guess what's missing in them from the 9 elements that we just talked about. So you come to a new hospital and from the outside it looks like one. It has the sign, it has the receptionist, which is you, but there's nothing else. What might be missing? People, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, people, strategy, for sure. Yeah. Governance, yeah. So governance is a big one. If you don't know the landscape that you're dealing with, if you've not had a chance to speak about the legalities of running a hospital, if you don't know, I don't know, qualifications, procedures, all that sort of stuff is really important, absolutely. So marketing went ahead and booked a full ward, but there are only 3 beds and no staff. Just imagine. But it happens all the time. Not in hospitals, of course, but it happens all the time in companies. Yeah? What's missing here?
People.
Yeah. Capacity, yeah.
Process. Governance.
Sorry? Communication, absolutely, yeah. It's marketing not working with strategy. Yeah. Yeah. You eventually get in, your appointment is majorly late, your referral got lost, the bill was wrong, and you never received the follow-up that you were promised.
Process technology.
Yep, yep. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, all those things. Nobody documented anything, so every shift had to start from the very beginning. Absolutely process, yeah. And a bit of governance, because on what basis are you making those processes work, right? Doctors stopped following guidelines because they each had their own opinion. Governance, process, maybe even technology if they're using the same tech to sort of communicate with each other. Nurses were not allowed to take a patient's temperature without sign-off. Yep. Also governance, like who makes the decisions and on what basis are those decisions made. The admin team grew bigger than the medical team and all their meetings were about approving stationery. Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's just like too much governance in the wrong direction because your strategy and your governance aren't talking to one another, nor are your staff. And you're not following process. And finally, the really big one that it's heartbreaking to me is that good people always leave. And the ones who stay stop caring. Yeah, that happens a lot in a lot of companies in any industry. If you don't have good processes, if your staff don't understand how they marry up with your strategy, how their role fits into the business, how their KPIs, if they do have KPIs and they should have KPIs, meet the strategy, the company's strategy, meetings upon meetings, all that sort of stuff gets out of hand. So all I'm trying to say to you is, your startup is a system. Regardless of whether you're a solo or you're already having revenue, these are the things you need to think about in order to be able to empower yourselves to succeed. James Clear of the Atomic Habits wrote a book, and this is I think some of you have already seen it, but you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And that's, I think, my baby is like I think about things in a system perspective, and I really hope that what I've shown you today is helping you on that journey as well. Does this work? No. This is meant to go like this. Build a startup that doesn't fail. That's what I'm all about. So, the key takeaways, I guess, are that, again, the walls are closing in on us as early stage startups. We can't continuously rely on experts or advice externally. There's so much of it. I want to instill, I suppose, a level of try and help yourselves. There are tools that exist, but also I'm about to show you a tool that I've built that might be able to help you. My brand is called SOVA, and this is a little snippet, glad it works, of how it all looks and pieces together based on where it meets you exactly where you are and helps you with all the tools that I've just mentioned. It tells you what you need at what stage. And today I'm offering 30% off all my plans. If you use that QR code, hopefully that works, and you get 30% off. And I'm also offering for those first 10 sign-ups to get a free 45-minute session with me if you'd like it. And I'm not a tax accountant, but SOVA is tax deductible for the majority of you, so get in quick. Thank you so much for listening. I haven't even looked at the time. Yeah?
Thank you so much, Jane. That was great.
Thank you.
We'll open up the floor to any questions, feedback, thoughts. Yeah. Right?
Thank you. Just on the very early point that you were talking about when you mentioned accelerators, I think like there are some businesses that really requires investments, and understandably as well, America being a very capitalist country, they have high appetite for risk, so the bank is supporting startups, and I think that's why they've got such a big startup culture, but it's not the same case in Australia. Yeah. Like how do we work around that? I mean, the government is not really supporting us or the regulations that are in place. It makes it very hard, even for the individuals to borrow money from the bank and to...
Absolutely, yeah. I feel your pain. I'm in the same boat. I'm bootstrapped. There is no funding for what I do. There's no women founding, or it's been cut. I think there was some funding that was going around a few years ago. Grants are down, investments down. We're all in the same boat, right? My point is that in order to succeed, we should start focusing on revenue rather than investment. I know investment is important for the majority, but if you do some of the legwork, right, then you're better prepared to have those conversations and being, understanding of your weaknesses and what to ask for, which mentors to bring in before you ask for investment, Even doing the legwork before you reach a consultant, because then you're not starting from scratch with a consultant. You're coming in and saying, hey, I've done all of this, can you run your eye over it, instead of them sort of wasting time and saying, go away and do this. They're just like money cutting down the very short runways that a lot of us have.
Very quick question from me, adjacent to that.
Yeah.
Question to you or anyone that might know, but Sasha, somewhat of a rhetorical question also. Do you think that we have a bit of an over-reliance on also government coming in and saving the day with like programs and fundings and initiatives? Because I see in other parts of the world there's a lot of privately initiated programs, funds, etc., to kind of come and give back to the market with less reliance on direct government support. Is that a thing here in Australia, or what are your thoughts on it?
I don't know, because governments do play a part in it, because we're failing. Australia, governments are not doing anything to increase our chance of success, right? But they have a vested interest in that because it does a lot of things for the economy. And a lot of startups are going in overseas in order to get the funding that they need or the support that they need. So there's absolutely a need for them to support us. But yeah, there's, again, a lot of private stuff that's happening. But some of it I feel is a little bit, what's the word for it, like vulturistic, or making a profit from us. Yeah, gamifying the whole, yeah, that's another thought that I've just had recently, is like, it's the whole ecosystem, not a whole ecosystem, but a lot of it is being gamified at our expense, which doesn't feel good to me. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, I'm in the finance part of,
Yes.
of your 9 elements, and
Yeah.
I found that going out for funding, private funding, it's a lot more demand from overseas. They make it a lot easier, and they actually target us.
Yeah.
And that's a story I hear often. Now, part of that is there is a vulture mentality,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think people are looking at overseas options. Question 1 is, what do you recommend? But also just to let people know that I agree that if you start your business to make money and don't rely on the government funding, which has been a lot in recent times, then you know you have real business. I've seen businesses through my close group fail because they just rely on that funding.
Yeah.
And on the other side, there are many sources of opportunities, and currently the thinking is get ready for your capital raise, whether it's pre-seed or not even think about Series A. Get your IM sorted, do these things, your strategy, get the pitch pack going, and then once you have that, then you go for the government funding, but don't rely on it. It'll take 1 or 2 years for it to come through.
Yeah.
But that then assists you in your pitching as well, because you're saying, I'm not relying 100% on the capital raise.
Yeah.
I'm also looking at accelerating my vision by government funding, which is not guaranteed, but when it does come in, it'll do X, Y, Z.
Yeah. So I think what I was getting at with the finance is that you really need to. I can't answer the question about where you get funding, because we're all in the same boat. But yeah, look, the best thing that you can do is, if you're starting out, or if you like, this is a great end of financial year, right? We all do a little stock take on our finances, but we don't do a stock take of everything else. I really believe that if you have a good strategy and you understand that if you don't receive funding, if funding is in your strategy but it doesn't happen, what other avenues have you thought about? All the different other avenues that you can take in order to get the money or the funding or the revenue that you need as quickly as possible. I think what's happened recently in Australia is that we've received a lot more angel investors. especially for us girls. I think that's been a prevalent sort of thing that people talk about, is there's more female angel investors to help more females because we're, down more than others. So that's a really good one. I mean, they do tend to, and angel investors in themselves tend to actually help startups that they invest in. But yes, the ecosystem is not doing enough to answer your question. Yeah.
Hi, hello, how are you?
Hello.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It was
Thank you.
awesome, structured, beautiful, as you mentioned at the beginning.
Yeah, okay, amazing,
Yeah.
thanks.
My question is, from all this system, which looks amazing system and very much fitting the startup as an actually big company, obviously, okay? We're calling it construction critical path. What of these elements no startup can miss at all? Like, it is really crucial to have those elements in your startup and you cannot miss it.
Which one?
Yeah, well, which ones, yeah?
None of them.
Yeah,
No,
or
that's-
maybe, I guess,
That's the whole point.
is there like some kind of order of hierarchy depending on the sector or business, or maybe prioritization? I understand it's a system.
Yeah.
The answer might be no, but is there like a priority?
Yeah, so the order that I ran you through is the order that I believe they need to sit when you're thinking about this sort of stuff. Because if you, as I said, because every single element is dependent on one another, it is actually in your benefit to work through it as you might already have something, but go back and fix the other bits that are probably causing you the gaps that you might not even see based on the failure rates.
Thank you. That was great and really insightful.
Thank you.
In terms of the success,
Yes.
so would it be a harmony of all those elements and finding the sort of cohesiveness within that? Is that how you would factor in the success? And what would be the underlying sort of thread that ties all of that together?
I think the underlying thread is understanding that those things all fit together. Yeah. So if you pivot, for example, if you pivot and you need to change your strategy, you have to remember that you also then need to change your performance statistics. Or you might need to, if you're pivoting to a completely different market, go back and check whether that particular market has any restraints or, I don't know, legalities or acts that you should be aware of, that sort of stuff. What financial sort of implication that might need, what marketing, how your marketing changes. I think it's just that awareness of the fact that all of those things are all interrelated and you can't do one without sort of touching the other. It's a system. Yeah, it's a system.
My question is about the stats that you had about the reason for failure. Were they self-reported?
These are Startup Genome, potentially. Most of them are Startup Genome ones, and they receive, statistics from all over the world.
So the startups report, right? So if I look at the loss of capital, because a lot of people think about capital as just purely money.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So could it be self-inflicted injury because they've just burned their capital too fast or made very bad decisions? You can't really differentiate that. And I think sometimes when people think about capital, they think too narrowly. Can you barter? Can you trade services, right? What about connections? So it's not just about capital as money. And if you're going to be a startup and entrepreneur, I would say Melbourne, Australia, we have such a culture. So many unicorns have been done here. My very contrarian view, having been overseas for the last 9 months, is if you still can't make it from friends, family, founders, and what the support that you have in StartSpace, I reckon you should be put off life support, right? Seriously, because then there's so much, I don't know if we realize how lucky we are here.
Hot take, Lena thinks you should fail. I think the opposite. No.
I would argue there's a lot of things going on, but in terms of actually getting the investment, and it's still a challenge, even for female founders.
Yeah. Look, I think the theme is that funding and money is a real challenge for all of us, and especially for early stage startups, which is why I'm saying do the legwork. Don't jump. Hey?
Why there is no male funding?
I think, there's a clear reason why. But we'll take one more question and then we'll wrap it up.
It was nice that she asked about someone else asked about the 9 elements. And you said that it should be in the order that you presented in, which one we should take care of first. But it also makes me think, like, say if we have a product idea that we want to develop, or like a business idea, what do we have to do first? Like, some things are very obvious. I feel like marketing is probably a bit down the track of after you have your product or your service built or developed. But I feel like there are things that it's like we have to set up before we get to developing or building whatever we're developing or building, isn't it?
Yeah. The way that I did it and the way that I think, I'm not a good use case, but I think the best thing that you can do is really consider what your mission, vision and values are. Because then if you understand what you stand for and what you want to achieve and what you want to bring to the world and what your skills are, and it's almost doing like an ikigai, yeah? An ikigai of like, what is it that you're actually good at and what the world needs, and be able to understand that. Then I think that gives you a better understanding of what you need to do next in terms of, well, if you have this brilliant idea, which market do I fit in? And what are, again, that governance factor of it. And then you go into like actually what my purpose is and then what your strategy is. And then it sort of cascades down from there. But those top sort of 3, the governance, purpose and strategy, are like your starting point.
I mean, we can think that governance can be a very obvious thing, but I'm listening to Steve Jobs' book, and at the time when he was like facing really bad health, it comes back and bit him in the ass where he didn't declare about his health issues, so they were coming and they were investigating about his health, how he didn't declare it to stakeholders, to investors and things like that. So it's like, that's to do with governance, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And people always think, I'll just do that later, I'll do the IP later, or I'll do policies later, but yeah, they're actually really critical. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Give it up to Jane, everyone, and to all of you. I also would like us all another round of applause because Jane was she was the only Australian nominated for the Global EdTech Innovation Award. So also a round of applause for that. That's amazing. Thank you again, Jane. If you want to come up, have a word with Jane, but also like network, connect, we'll be moving into about 30 minutes of networking. Fill up the feedback forms, the QR codes on the tables, please. Otherwise, we'll send you an email with the link. But please stay back, have conversations, connect with the community. I'd also ask you to move to the central area here for networking because of the time lapse that we're filming for the website. It would be great to have all of you move to that side. But thank you again to all of you for coming in today. We'll see you next time.